Afternoon, all. This is Devin, and it's another day of Writing Daily. Today, we're going to be talking about persuasive writing, and we're going to do so in the context of Martin Luther King, whose death anniversary, his assassination anniversary, was April 4th, yesterday. And so, had I been a little bit more on the ball, we would have done this one yesterday, but we didn't. For those who don't know, my name is Devin Galaudet. I am the host. I do a podcast every single day about writing better, writing more effectively, and becoming better, more confident, and finishing your articles, stories, novels, the whole kit and caboodle. Anything that has to do with writing, we're going to discuss. And part of the experience is that not only am I the editor-in-chief of In the No Traveler, I am the author of the forthcoming book, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. Actually, today is Galleys Day for me. That means the team over at my publisher is going to be turning it in to be printed, to be done. I should actually, I think, have a copy in my hand probably in the next week. So that's going to be exciting stuff. But for now, we're going to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King, and persuasive writing, because he was, here was a guy who believed in nonviolence and, really, I think, changed the world in a great many ways, and was a remarkable wordsmith and writer. And I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle of his many other accomplishments and his importance. And so today I wanted to read something that is from the speeches and the writing and speeches, the I Have a Dream. So it's got all kinds of incredible stuff in here, but I'm choosing actually a really long page and a half from a letter from a Birmingham jail. I'm not a historian, but the general backstory is that he was getting sort of from other ministries, kind of like, hey, we know that you're enthusiastic about this thing, but sort of hold your horses, hold off. We know you want to march forward, but why can't you just wait? And so this is a fairly lengthy letter that he wrote. And it's a very long letter. I think it's absolutely worth reading in its entirety, but I want to focus on really a very long, maybe about a page and a half paragraph that I'm going to read to you, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's just genius. I think in terms of, especially considering the context, it wasn't, he was in jail when he wrote this. And he got a fair amount of flack for not being in jail more often, and he was accused of letting others do his dirty work. I don't think that was a fair assessment of the situation. Again, this has some very strong political, human rights issues in here, so the language is challenging at times, but I'm not making a political statement. I'm just talking about really great writing. So as always, make sure that you ask a question, give me a thumbs up so I know that you are with me. And if you have a question, always fire away. I'm ready to see it. And by the way, Constance, thank you for being here. So based on that, we're going to start, a handful of pages into the Birmingham jail letter. And it starts like this. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Frankly, I never yet engaged in a direct action movement that was well-timed, according to the timetable of those who have not suffered unduly from the disease of segregation. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in my ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has always meant never. It has been a tranquilizing thalidomide, relieving the emotional stress for a moment, only to give birth to an ill-formed infant of frustration. We must come to see with the distinguished jurist of yesterday that justice too long delayed is justice denied. We have waited more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. The nations of Asia and Africa are moving with jet-like speed towards the goal of political independence, and we still creep at horse and buggy pace towards the gaining of a cup of coffee at a lunch counter. I guess it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you have seen vicious mobs lynch your mothers and fathers at will and drown your sisters and brothers at whim, when you have seen hate-filled policemen curse, kick, brutalize, and even kill your black brothers and sisters with impunity, when you have seen the vast majority of your 20 million Negro brothers smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society, when you suddenly find your tongue twisted and your speech stammering as you seek to explain to your 6-year-old daughter why she can't go to the public amusement park that has been just advertised on television, and see tears welling up in her little eyes when she is told that Funtown is closed to colored children, and see the depressing clouds of inferiority begin to form in her little mental sky. I love that phrase. And see her begin to distort her little personality by unconsciously developing a bitterness towards white people. When you have to concoct an answer for your 5-year-old son asking in agonizing pathos, Daddy, why do white people treat colored people so mean? When you take a cross-country drive and find it necessary to sleep night after night in the uncomfortable corners of your automobile because no motel will accept you, when you are humiliated day in and day out by the nagging signs reading white and colored, when your first name becomes N-word and your middle name becomes boy, however old you are, and your last name becomes John, and when your wife and mother are never given the respected title Mrs., when you are harried by day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stance, never quite knowing what to expect next, and plagued with inner fears and outer resentments, when you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over, and men are no longer willing to be plunged into an abyss of injustice when they experience the blackness of corroding despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience. I wish I had read it better. I don't know if it's not my strength, but really, really and truly, this is great writing. Beyond the fact of its context, beyond the fact that it was written in jail, beyond the fact that it was sort of monumental writing, I kind of want to look at what he does here that he does so well. For the most part, he is polite throughout. He does this thing that is kind of a literary device that I think is really fascinating. And what he does is he uses your logic by saying, like, when this happens, when this other thing happens, when these other things happen, that's when you'll get it. And moreover, what he does is he starts with very broad brushstrokes of like, here's what's happening in terms of society. Here's what's happening to individual people I know. Here's what's happening to people I identify with. Here's what's happening to my children. Here's what's happening to my wife. Here's what's happening to my mother. Here's what's happening to me. That's when you understand. And he spells it out in what I would say is very directed, pointed language, and at the same time throughout this entire piece, he is respectful. I think there's, without question, when you talk about talking about persuasive writing, he does an excellent job. And this goes to always to my bigger thing is that, like, if you need to do some marketing, if you're really trying to make some sort of a point, whether it be through a speech or through writing, is that where do you start? Where do you start? How do you get good at persuasive writing? How do you make your point? And I would say, how do you start with that? You start reading people like Martin Luther King. I also brought in the speeches of Mark Twain. I'm not going to be reading from those today, only because we'd like to keep this short. But I think if you go with the when then statement, in other words, because what he's doing is, with every example of when that he delivers across over and over again, what he's doing is he's building tension. He's building an anticipation, because we know where he's going, right? We know immediately where he's going. We know why he's doing it, right? We know what's at stake, which is enormous for certainly a significant portion of the population. And then when he gets to, this is why we can't do what you're asking me to do. And it's beautiful and it's poignant, and I highly recommend it. Again, these are just a series of his speeches and writings. You could probably find it online for free. Without a doubt. I mean, I think it's one of the more important letters to read. It's, it's maybe 15, 20 pages long. I think it's absolutely worth a few moments of your time. Please know that there is some heavy subject matter. It is, for some, it's going to probably bring up some stuff, perhaps worthwhile. So as always, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know what your writing problems are. And, listen, click the like button, hit the wow button. Let me know that you're out there, and certainly leave a comment in your box. Right now, the beauty is this little podcast is now on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play. And we just applied for Spotify, and then of course we're on YouTube, and then I'm going to be loading up devingallaudet.com with all of these things, where you're going to have access to the audio or to the video, whatever you'd like to do. And then of course you can always join me at devingallaudet.com .com/dad. It is in the link here, and you can sign up to win prizes and get special pricing and kind of fun stuff on my book, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes. Anyway, that's what I've got for today. I think it was an important day considering the time frame that we're talking about, and I wish you all success. Keep writing. Love to hear from you, and have a great writerly filled day.